That day, I was working from home, staying in my study room since morning. I could hear my husband Josh, whom I had remarried, and his daughter chatting cheerfully. It was the first time I'd heard them talking with such excitement. Out of curiosity, I quietly moved closer to the hallway, trying to listen in. Then I heard something that I couldn't believe.
It's way more peaceful without that annoying wife around.
Annoying wife? Was he talking about me? Trying to remember the term annoying, I quickly searched my mind for the meaning. I referred to something lowly or disrespectful. Is that really how he saw me? I was reeling from the shock, processing his words. Then my stepdaughter's voice chimed in.
We still need her for my college fees, though. We can't do without that human ATM.
Human ATM? Were they really calling me that? She was always asking for more allowance and didn't seem to study seriously. Despite that, I had tried my best to support her, believing it was my role as a mother figure. I thought it was just a phase, and she'd settle down eventually. But no, they were using me right from the start. They only needed me for money, without any affection or respect. I turned back as quietly as I could and returned to my room. I started packing my essentials into a suitcase. When they left the house to go out to eat, I took the chance to slip away, leaving the house. It was too late for regrets now. Just because I was lonely didn't mean I wanted to be with anyone. If all they needed was my money, then I had no reason to stay. My name is Emily, and I'm a mid-level accountant. For 15 years, I've worked in accounting, always steady and dedicated. After my first marriage ended, I focused on advancing my career. Even during my toughest times, I stayed committed to my work, knowing it was my lifeline. When I decided to change jobs, I focused solely on accounting positions. Now I work in the finance department of a large pharmaceutical group, doing most of my work remotely. The company specializes in developing medical treatments, even working with overseas clients. Because of this, my salary is a bit higher than average, and I enjoy my work immensely. In fact, my work helped me get through the hardship of my divorce. My first husband, Zach, struggled with alcohol dependency. At first, it seemed like he only drank a bit too much, but over time, it became a daily habit. Zach had unresolved issues from his past, things that my support alone couldn't heal. He needed counseling or even a structured program to help him stop drinking. However, he refused any help. I believe he wasn't ready to make the difficult commitment to recovery. His struggles weren't his fault, but it was painful to live alongside someone going through it. Because I was working full-time, supporting us financially became natural for me. Even after the divorce, I never felt lost because I knew I could rely on my own skills. I eventually transitioned to a better-paying job and grew in my career, and I've become financially stable. At times, I wondered if I was meant to live my life without the need for a family, just focusing on work. Then, I met Josh and his daughter, Lily. Josh was a salesperson at a pharmaceutical company, often visiting our office as part of his job. Though he wasn't very assertive, something about his gentle nature appealed to me. I think it was my nurturing instinct that made me want to support him. Looking back, I realize I'm often drawn to men with vulnerabilities.
I'm not very efficient at things. I'm doing my best as a single dad to raise Lily, but it's tough.
When we first went out to dinner, Josh shared his struggles with me. He was divorced too, because his ex-wife had been unfaithful. It made sense to me that his daughter would choose to stay with him. Josh was often anxious about his income and worried about Lily's future.
I've been thinking about finding a job with better pay, but I've already switched jobs 4 times.
Although switching jobs isn't necessarily bad, I felt uneasy hearing him say it was a repeated cycle. I wondered if he was taking the time to reflect on what wasn't working. I was worried that if he didn't understand why things weren't working out, he'd end up in the same situation again. Changing environments without personal growth wouldn't bring different results. Job changes are risky if you're not actively learning from each experience. I felt that to increase his income, he needed to grow personally as well. When I asked him what his strengths were, his response was underwhelming.
I'm not sure. I just feel like I keep failing and it's getting discouraging.
Failures are valuable learning experiences. In fact, people who succeed often learn from their mistakes. I shared with Josh that failures are essential for growth, and each setback is a lesson. But he only sighed and folded his arms, clearly uncertain.
But I'd need knowledge first, right?
His reluctance to try before having perfect knowledge made me wonder if he was just making excuses. It became apparent that he had no real desire to make changes or put in the work. I started realizing he was more content with fantasizing about success than actively working toward it. Yet I still thought I could support him if he genuinely wanted to improve. I told him that, even if he struggled in finding a better job, my income would be stable enough to support us. But he interpreted my reassurance differently than I had intended.
Thanks, Emily. Honestly, being an employee doesn't suit me, so this is a relief. I'm not planning to quit now, but it's nice to know I don't have to worry as much about increasing my income.
His response left me feeling a bit uneasy, as if he was placing the financial responsibilities solely on me. Still, I tried to brush it off, thinking he'd eventually find his footing. When we got married, I met Lily for the first time. She scanned me up and down with a critical look before bluntly asking,
So, what exactly do you bring to the table? Good job? Decent salary?
Her words took me aback. After a few seconds of silence, I realized she was basically questioning my worth. I was sweating with embarrassment. Though I didn't consider myself especially attractive or charming, I was taken aback by her bluntness. I started to worry about whether I'd be able to build a relationship with such a straightforward teenager.
Lily, that's rude.
I didn't mean anything by it.
I held back a retort, not wanting to cause conflict on our first meeting.
So, what kind of work do you do, Emily?
Her curiosity surprised me, so I shared my job with her honestly. I hoped my experience might inspire her or give her ideas for her own future. Well, I work in accounting. Do you know what accountants do?
Yeah, like handling expense reports or reimbursements.
That's part of it, but there's a lot more involved. I tried explaining my role in accounting to Lily in simple terms. My responsibilities included handling monthly closings, preparing consolidated reports, and financial strategy. I explained that I manage transactions, prepare reports for the parent company, and create financial strategies. Hoping to make my job sound relevant, I explained how these tasks required analytical and management skills.
So what kind of qualifications do you need for that job?
Well, you need accounting certifications, and if you want to advance, experience in finance or banking is helpful. I added that in accounting, experience matters as much as education. I hoped Josh would gain some appreciation for the expertise my work demanded. Other than that, you need to be able to manage budgets, oversee financial planning, and work with a team. Lily, however, looked completely uninterested. Josh chimed in, adding his own question about my workload and earnings.
That sounds pretty busy. How much do you make doing all that?
For a moment, I almost answered truthfully. I was just shy of a 6-figure salary, and that was my goal to achieve someday. But then I noticed Lily giving a smug look, so I chose to give a vague answer. Let's just say it's a bit above average for an accountant. Lily made a bored noise, glancing at Josh as if they were silently communicating. Watching them interact, I felt like an outsider. I tried to lighten the atmosphere by continuing to explain more about accounting, but my explanations seemed to fall flat. I reminded myself that it was just the beginning, and building a family takes time. I was determined to support both Josh and Lily and be part of their lives. If it came down to it, I could support Lily's education financially if necessary. However, I was unaware then of Josh's actual intentions. It soon became clear that he was planning to rely on my income from the start. And his hope was to put Lily in an expensive private university that accepted students based mostly on tuition. Once we started living together, I began to notice things that troubled me. I noticed that Lily often skipped her tutoring sessions without telling me. One day, the tutoring center even called to inform me that she hadn't shown up. Hey Lily, what happened with tutoring today? I knocked on her door, and she replied with a bored tone.
I decided to attend remotely today.
Though the center used to offer remote learning, they had returned to in-person sessions recently. Besides, if she was missing classes, the center wouldn't have reached out to me. I began to worry about her commitment to college prep, wondering if she truly had the motivation. If you're struggling with any subjects, I can help you review if you'd like.
Why would I need help?
I just thought maybe I could help. You might feel more comfortable asking me questions. Lily let out a heavy sigh, clearly irritated.
Look, I don't need any of that. It's kind of weird that you're trying to act all motherly.
My offer wasn't meant to insult her, but she took it the wrong way. I instantly regretted offering. She might already feel pressure or frustration about her studies, and I didn't want to add to it. I quickly apologized, telling her to go at her own pace, but I knew the issue was more serious. Missing tutoring would impact her, especially with college prep programs that move at a fast pace. Without a strong commitment, it would only become harder for Lily to catch up. I wondered if Josh knew about Lily's tendency to skip her tutoring sessions. They seemed to have a close relationship, but perhaps there were things he was unaware of. Josh, can we talk about Lily's studies for a minute?
Sure. What's going on?
Please, don't scold her, but her tutoring center has called a few times. It seems she hasn't been attending regularly.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. She's always hated studying.
He sighed, as if it were something he had accepted long ago.
She's got her eye on a private university, you know. One that'll take her as long as we can pay the tuition.
Josh smiled as he said this, as if it were a simple solution. I found this approach troubling. Perhaps Lily didn't feel motivated because she assumed her parents would simply take care of everything. But it didn't feel right to point this out as her stepmother. So I simply nodded and tried to move on from the topic. I returned to my room preparing for an online meeting as part of my remote work. With my new work schedule, I now worked from home twice a week. This arrangement allowed me to spend more time at home and keep an eye on things. It also gave me more opportunities to observe both Josh and Lily's behaviors. Little by little, my earlier worries about their intentions started to resurface. I couldn't shake the feeling that they might be expecting me to fund Lily's entire college tuition. I had no problem supporting her dreams, but I didn't want to be taken advantage of. As the days passed, I started noticing other behaviors that concerned me even more. Sometimes Josh would sleep in on weekdays or return home early in the afternoon. One morning I walked into the living room and was surprised to see him home.
Oh hey, you're here.
Yes, it's my work from home day. Are you off today?
Actually, I took the morning off. I was really tired from a late night of work yesterday.
But as I looked around, I could smell the faint trace of alcohol in the air. It seemed more likely that he'd been out drinking rather than working late. I let it slide, but it became clear that there were more mornings like this than I had noticed before. Josh often talked about how he never seemed to fit in at work, and I had originally thought he was just unlucky. But now I began to suspect it was something else entirely. Perhaps his work habits were part of the problem. And soon I would find out the full extent of what he and Lily had been hiding from me. One morning, I accidentally overslept by about 30 minutes because I hadn't been feeling well. I knew I only needed to be ready for a 10 a.m. online meeting, so I planned to relax a bit before the day started. Half asleep, I could hear voices coming from the living room downstairs. I looked at the clock, and to my surprise, it was already 9 a.m. Why were there voices at this time? Josh should have left for work, and Lily should be at school. I tiptoed down the stairs to listen.
Dad, are you taking the day off again?
Of course. I'm already using up my vacation days. Might as well use them before I quit.
Wait, are you really quitting?
I'll be technically between jobs. Not a slacker, just, taking some time to think.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was he really planning on quitting his job without telling me?
Well, I'm just a student, so I don't have to worry about jobs yet.
They both kept talking casually, as if they had no real responsibilities. It was then that I overheard the words that shattered any illusion I still held about them.
Life's so much more peaceful without the annoying wife around.
Annoying wife? Was he really referring to me that way? I quickly recalled the term, realizing that he was implying I was an inconvenience to him. As I absorbed his words, I felt a mixture of shock and disbelief. Then I heard Lily's voice chime in casually, adding insult to injury.
But we can't have her gone completely. I still need her around for college expenses, right?
I froze. Did they really think of me as nothing more than an ATM? The notion that a high school student would say that about me was beyond disrespectful. My head spun as I processed what I'd just heard. Could it be that from the beginning they had only seen me as a source of financial support? I began to piece things together, realizing the truth was likely worse than I'd imagined. I carefully stepped back, returning to my room, barely making a sound. I quickly grabbed my largest suitcase and began stuffing it with essentials. Then, when I heard them head out to eat, I seized the opportunity to leave without a word. I knew staying any longer would only continue to drain me emotionally and financially. I had tolerated so much, believing that with time, they would change. But they'd taken my kindness for weakness, and enough was enough. As I walked out, I felt both a weight lifting from me and a pang of sadness. But I was determined not to let their disrespectful view of me define my self-worth. I knew my next steps would involve focusing on rebuilding my life on my own terms. I left my filled-out divorce papers on the desk, knowing that once he saw them, he would understand my resolve. I rented a modest monthly apartment close to my workplace, grateful for a space of my own. Though it was small, the location was convenient, and I had some peace and privacy. The calls started almost immediately. Josh left multiple messages, which I ignored, suspecting he was only calling out of desperation. A month passed without any real contact, though his attempts only increased. I knew he was calling because he was in a difficult situation, not out of affection. He'd seen the divorce papers, which should have been enough to show him I was serious. Then, late at night, my phone began to ring persistently. This time, it was Lily. I imagined the realization hitting them that their ATM was no longer available. But deep down, I didn't feel any sympathy for their situation. They had taken me for granted, thinking they could live off my hard work. At last, around midnight, Josh called again. I sighed, picking up, ready to put an end to this once and for all. "It's late, Josh. This is highly inappropriate."
Emily, finally. Where are you?
He sounded genuinely worried, but I knew better. "That's not important. Just file the divorce papers, Josh."
What? Divorce? Why? I don't even understand what's going on.
His feigned confusion only fueled my frustration. The time for playing dumb was over, and I wouldn't let his words sway me. "You know exactly why. You've said enough."
Look, we need to talk. Lily's planning on attending open house events, and she really wants you there too.
I felt the anger rising as I realized he was trying to involve me financially again. "Right, the one for the private college. I heard the entrance cost is steep." Josh hesitated, likely realizing I knew more than he thought.
Well, yes, but you know how important it is for her to be prepared.
He tried to use Lily as a way to manipulate me back, assuming that her needs would make me reconsider. But I couldn't shake the disrespect and disregard they'd shown me. This time, I wouldn't give in to emotional blackmail. "Josh, maybe it's time you faced reality. Supporting Lily is your responsibility, not mine." His silence was all the confirmation I needed. This chapter was over, and I finally felt at peace. Days passed with no real response from Josh, except for a few more late-night messages from him and Lily. They clearly didn't understand that I was returning to their lives as a backup plan. I kept ignoring the calls, focused on creating a new life on my terms. But one night, as I was relaxing after work, my phone buzzed with yet another call. This time, I decided to pick up, hoping to settle things once and for all. "Josh, what do you need now?"
Emily, please. You have to help us out. Lily really needs you.
"No, she needs her father to step up, not me. I'm done being your ATM."
But you know things have been tough. I lost my job.
His tone was pleading, but I knew he was only sorry about the lack of financial support. Maybe it's time to find a stable job and take some responsibility.
Can't we just talk this out? I'm willing to try again, really.
"No, Josh, the way you and Lily treated me, I don't think there's any going back from that." He fell silent, seemingly out of arguments. I finally felt that my words had hit home.
I guess I never thought it would come to this.
"That's because you took me for granted. Both of you did." I hung up, realizing I'd said everything I needed to say. Over time, I stopped checking for messages, knowing there was no need to revisit the past. I started focusing on myself, enjoying the peace that came from knowing I was free from their expectations. Lily eventually dropped out of her university plans and started working part-time. I heard that she'd been struggling with reality, but was learning some valuable lessons about independence. Josh, on the other hand, drifted between jobs, occasionally reaching out for one last favor. I never responded. I had given them enough chances, and it was time for me to move forward. I even adopted a rescue cat, finding joy in the small moments of companionship and comfort it brought. With each day, I found new purpose and contentment, knowing I'd made the right choice. I no longer felt the need to support those who couldn't appreciate or respect me. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly free.
My husband called me incompetent until food poisoning hit. Then I showed him just how useless I could be.
My name is Ellie. I've been married to my husband Todd for a year now. When we were dating, he was so kind that everyone envied me. But I guess it's the same in most marriages. Men stop putting in effort once they feel secure. It didn't take long after our wedding for Todd's attitude to change.
Hey, are you done with the laundry yet?
"I just got home, Todd. Can you give me a minute?"
Come on, dinner's not even ready yet. What are you doing all day?
I just told you I just got back. If you're that concerned, maybe you could help a little?
What are you talking about? You just sit at a desk all day at work. I'm out there walking in the heat as a salesman. My exhaustion is on another level.
Desk jobs are hard work too. Sitting in the same position all day hurts my back and my shoulders get stiff.
Yeah, enough with the excuses. If you have time to talk, you have time to get things done.
Conversations like this have become our norm. We're both working different jobs, but I believe we're equally tired. However, Todd never lifts a finger to help with chores. In fact, he keeps demanding that I do even more around the house. I try my best to balance work and housework. But today, like every day, Todd's criticism wore me down, and I sighed. Sitting around won't get the chores done. With heavy steps, I picked up Todd's clothes, scattered on the floor, and put them in the laundry basket.
Hey, make sure to wash these too.
I already put the clothes in the washer. Can you take them to the laundry room yourself?
Huh? Why should I go through the trouble? You take them.
Why not? They're your clothes. You should take care of your own stuff.
Don't talk back to me. Just take them now.
With that, Todd tossed his clothes onto the floor. I clenched my teeth, but picked them up. I turned on the washing machine, pushed through my fatigue, and started cooking dinner. It had been a rough day at work with unexpected problems, so I decided to make things simple. There were plenty of vegetables left, so I thought I'd throw them all into a curry. I put the vegetables in the pot and set it to cook. We still had some side dishes from yesterday, so I decided to serve those as well. Just as I was setting the table, Todd walked in.
Whoa, don't tell me this is tonight's dinner.
Yes, it is.
Are you serious? It's the exact same meal as yesterday.
We had leftovers, and there's also curry.
Curry? Just cutting vegetables and boiling them, that counts as cooking to you? Huh, pathetic. I want something more sophisticated, like roast beef or seafood stew.
I can't cook fancy meals like that on a weekday. I got home late too, remember?
Don't give me that. Lisa from my office comes home at the same time and makes elaborate dinners. Look, here's her Instagram.
Isn't Lisa single though?
So what? Whether you're single or married, it shouldn't make a difference. Besides, she's stylish and nice, unlike you.
Fine, I'll make something better on my day off.
You're right. I won't hold my breath.
Lately, Todd has been mentioning this Lisa from work a lot. I knew she was a colleague, but seeing that he followed her Instagram made me uneasy. Her meals were always vibrant and picture perfect, but she was single and had time to enjoy cooking. It wasn't the same for me. After work, I had to prepare Todd's meals and handle his laundry, but Todd didn't see the difference. He couldn't understand that comparing my chores to those of a single woman living alone was unfair. During dinner, Todd kept complaining.
This is bland. I can barely taste anything. And why is the meat so small? Splurge a little and get bigger cuts. Don't be cheap. These vegetables are undercooked. You're useless. Totally incompetent. Yeah, that's it. From now on, I'll call you incompetent.
Todd, stop it. That's not funny.
Why? It suits you. You can't do anything right.
I'm serious. Stop calling me that. It's too much.
What's the big deal? An incompetent wife shouldn't argue back. I make more money than you. You can't survive without me.
Todd kept calling me incompetent every time we met. Even when I told him to stop, he just found it amusing and continued. Because of this, he started pushing more and more chores onto me. One day I had the day off, so I decided to talk to my childhood friend, Mina. I'm really at my limit, Mina. Every day feels unbearable.
That's serious, Ellie. No one should be treated like that.
You think so? He was so kind before we got married.
Yeah, but how do you feel now? Are you thinking about divorce?
I don't know. I'm confused about whether I even dislike Todd or not. We've been together for a year and ending it feels complicated.
That's exactly the problem. Don't stay just because you've been married for a year or because you're married at all.
Really?
Yeah, if you're only staying for appearances, you're going to end up miserable. Hey, Ellie, why don't we go out for drinks sometime? You haven't been out in ages. You need a break.
That sounds nice. I'll ask Todd.
Ask Todd? Isn't he always out drinking anyway?
Yeah, lately more than ever.
Then don't ask. Tell him. He can't say no when he's out all the time.
You're right. I guess I've been tiptoeing around Todd too much. Maybe it's time I spoke up. When Todd got home, I told him I wanted to go out for drinks.
What? Go out for drinks? What's that supposed to mean?
Exactly what it sounds like. I want to go out with Mina. We haven't gone out in a while.
No.
Why not? You go out all the time. Why is it okay for you but not for me?
Because I said no. Who'll make my dinner if you're not here?
You could eat out or order delivery or buy something.
No way, a wife's job is to cook for her husband. Besides, me going out doesn't affect you. If anything, you should be grateful you don't have to cook for me when I'm out.
That's not fair. Even when you're out, I still have to wash your clothes and lunch containers. It's not easy.
Enough. You're not going out. Stay home and do your job, incompetent.
After saying that, Todd stormed off to his room. What's with him and that attitude? He goes out drinking all the time, but he can't let me go out even once. My frustration grew, so I decided to ignore Todd's orders and go out with Mina the next day. Just in case, I sent Todd a message. I'm going out for drinks tonight. Mina, maybe I really should consider divorce.
What happened now?
Todd told me not to go out tonight, even though he goes out all the time.
What? That's so hypocritical. It makes no sense.
I know, right? I'm starting to doubt if I even love him anymore.
Forget about him tonight. Let's just drink and talk it out.
Thanks, Mina. That night I vented to Mina about Todd like never before. I'd always thought it was wrong to speak badly about your spouse, so I bottled it up and hurt myself in the process. But as I talked, I felt a weight lift from my chest. We were having a good time when someone tapped me on the shoulder.
Excuse me, did you drop this?
Huh? Oh, my wallet.
Oh, Ellie, you need to be more careful.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much.
No problem. Glad I could help. Take care.
I had put my bag on the back of my chair, and my wallet must have slipped out without me noticing. I checked the contents. Everything was there.
Did you see that guy? He was really handsome, wasn't he?
What? I was so panicked about my wallet that I didn't even notice.
Such a shame.
After a while, I got late, and we decided to head home. I really had a great time tonight. As I searched for my keys at the front door, I thought I heard a noise from inside. Curious, I turned the doorknob and found it was unlocked. Did Todd forget to lock the door? How careless. I walked in and there was Todd standing in the hallway. Whoa! You scared me, Todd. What are you doing?
Where have you been?
What do you mean? I sent you a message that I was going out with a friend.
Didn't I tell you not to go? I said no going out.
But I told you I wanted to go. Why can't I go out with friends sometimes?
Do you know what I have for dinner? Instant noodles.
Really? I thought you would have gone out to eat somewhere.
You left me here to eat by myself while you were out having fun? Who do you think you are?
Todd, you've been acting so selfish lately. It's like you only care about yourself.
Don't get cocky, you incompetent wife.
His yelling startled me and I shrank back. Without another word, Todd stormed back to his room. I collapsed to the floor, shaken. Why do I deserve this just for going out with friends? Why do I have to be called incompetent by my husband? What did I do wrong? Thoughts flooded my mind and mixed with the fear, tears started to fall. That night I made the decision to seriously consider divorce. Days passed with minimal conversation between Todd and me. One evening, Todd came home in an unusually good mood.
I'm back. Guess what I brought?
Welcome home. What is it?
My coworker made some beef stew. I had it at lunch, and it was so good that I brought some home.
Who made it?
Lisa, the girl from work. Can you believe it? She's cute, can cook, and would make a great wife. Unlike you, incompetent. Here, put it on a plate and heat it up. I'll just have this for dinner.
A while ago, those words would have hurt me, but now I felt nothing for Todd. I did as he asked and heated the stew. Once it was warmed up, I placed it in front of him.
Wow, it looks just as good as it did at lunch. Thanks. Want to try some so you can learn how it's done?
Nah, I'm fine.
No sense of charm, huh? Even an incompetent should at least try to be cute.
I ignored him, and Todd focused on eating. I couldn't bear to eat the stew from his coworker, so I ate my own cooking. Dinner was silent. I washed the dishes without a word. Suddenly I heard Todd groaning behind me.
Ugh, it hurts.
What is it now, Todd?
My stomach. Something's wrong.
Todd doubled over, clutching his stomach. I put down the dish I was washing and rushed to him. Are you okay? Did you eat too much?
No, it really hurts. Help me.
Could it be food poisoning? I'm fine, so it must be the stew you brought home. Maybe it's spoiled.
Spoiled? No way. It was fine at lunch.
Yeah, but you left it out at room temperature until now. Of course it could have gone bad.
How was I supposed to know? I don't cook. Just help me. Please.
This man who called me incompetent all the time now needed my help. I don't know what to do. I'm incompetent, remember?
Oh, don't be like this. This is serious.
I don't know, Todd. I still have dishes to wash. Wait a bit.
Please, Ellie, it's really bad. My stomach feels like it's tearing apart.
That does sound tough. But you know, I need to take my bath, and you always insist on going first.
I'm in too much pain for that right now.
Oh, what a dilemma. If you don't go first, I can't bath.
Stop with that and help me.
Fine. Once I finish the dishes, the laundry, my bath, and ironing your clothes, then I'll see what I can do.
That's too long. Do you really have that much left?
Yes, Todd, I do this every day. How have you not noticed, even after a year of marriage? Exactly. Until I finish everything, my time isn't available, so you'll have to wait.
I'm sorry. I was wrong. I apologize for everything I said before. I won't call you incompetent anymore. Just please, take me to the hospital.
I questioned if he was really in pain or just pretending, but his pale face and trembling body suggested otherwise. Are you sure this isn't just another act?
No, Ellie, it's real. Oh, please, I need help.
I decided that enough was enough and called an ambulance. As expected, Todd was diagnosed with mild food poisoning. The doctor said he'd be fine after rest and some medication. Todd lay on the hospital bed, looking relieved after treatment.
Wow, it was just food poisoning. Oh, thank goodness. You know, Ellie, earlier I said you weren't incompetent, but you kind of are for not helping right away. What kind of wife prioritizes chores over her husband's pain?
I don't think I want to be your wife anymore, Todd. Let's get a divorce.
Divorce? What are you talking about? Where is this coming from?
It's not sudden, Todd. I've been thinking about it for a while. I don't want to be married to you anymore.
This is ridiculous. You can't survive without me. You know your salary alone isn't enough.
You're right, but I'll manage. And I'm going to file for alimony. That'll help me until I get back on my feet.
Alimony? What grounds do you think you have to ask for that? If anything, I should be charging you for the inconvenience of keeping you around.
Are you sure about that? Take a look at these. I pulled out a folder of photos showing Todd walking arm in arm with another woman.
What? What are these?
You tell me, Todd. You should recognize them better than anyone.
When did you take these? How did you get them?
That woman in the photos, it's Lisa, right? Your coworker?
I can explain. Lisa kept insisting and I couldn't refuse.
Oh, don't even start, Todd. Being insisted upon doesn't make you innocent. You chose to cheat.
Ellie, just listen for a second.
I've said all I needed to. Let's finalize the divorce. We'll handle everything through our lawyers.
If that's what you really want, fine. But don't think you'll get any money out of me.
Todd's confidence wavered, but he tried to keep his composure. We'll see about that. Goodbye, Todd. Without another word, I walked away from him. The divorce process went smoothly through legal channels. Despite his bluster, Todd was found at fault and had to pay alimony. I received enough to move into a better apartment, but I decided to stay in my cozy place and save up. I also left my job to start anew, wary that Todd might show up at my workplace. About a week after starting at my new job, Todd called me.
Ellie, I need your help.
Todd, I'm busy. What do you want?
Lisa lied to me. All that food she made was store-bought, and she can't cook or clean at all. And she's 5 years older than she said. Can you believe that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she's been nagging me about marriage constantly. I can't stand it anymore.
I see.
Ellie, can't we start over? I need you back. We were good together, right?
Actually, no. And I'm seeing someone now. And someone who's kind, caring, and appreciates me.
Wait, what? Who?
I don't have time for this, Todd. I'm meeting him now. Goodbye.
Ellie, wait. Don't hang up.
Oh, and stop calling me. If you do, I'll report you to the police for harassment.
Ugh.
I hung up, ignoring his protests.
Hey, sorry if I kept you waiting.
No, I just got here too.
Great. Let's get going.
Yes, let's. This is Kyle, my new boyfriend. We met when he returned my lost wallet at the bar. Turns out, he's also my new supervisor at work. Life's funny that way. We clicked over shared interests and soon started dating. Now, I'm happier than ever. Life with Todd was nothing compared to the joy I have now. Sometimes things fall apart so better things can fall together. And now my life is infinitely better than it was before.
My daughter-in-law mocked our restaurant choice. My usually calm husband's furious response left her speechless.
Our son and his wife, who had recently welcomed their newborn, planned to visit our home for a long-awaited introduction. For our daughter-in-law, Lily, this would be her first visit to our home. My husband and I were excited and busy preparing for the occasion. Our home was in the countryside, no flashy neon signs or upscale neighborhoods like in the city. Instead, we offered the peaceful sounds of birds and insects and prepared hearty, comforting meals. But then, an unexpected comment from our daughter-in-law shattered the anticipation.
What a dirty place. Is this what you'd expect from a poor countryside family?
Did she mean us? Her son hadn't told her about the family business yet. He probably wanted to avoid scaring her off, but that decision led to a huge misunderstanding. My usually calm husband's face turned stone cold as he spoke in a low voice.
Then leave.
Wait, I didn't mean...
She turned and saw my husband appear from the back, realizing the gravity of her words too late. My life had spanned over 50 years, and I never imagined I'd be managing an inn as the mistress. Life changed drastically after marriage, but walking this path with my strong and loving husband has been fulfilling. Together we raised 2 wonderful children, and I've always felt grateful for the life we built. Let me share how I became the mistress of an inn. I didn't initially dream of working in hospitality. After college, I joined a company that dealt with interior products. My joy was traveling during weekends and long breaks. As a student, I had dreams of seeing the world, spending all my savings on overseas trips. As an adult, I began to appreciate Japan's charm and took trips to explore it deeply. During one such journey, I learned that it was possible not only to be a guest, but to work part-time at inns to learn about the area. In retrospect, many backpackers overseas do this, earning as they go. It made sense. Learn, earn, and travel. A perfect combination. I took on weekend jobs and even spent entire weekends helping during the busy New Year period. I loved resort jobs and once worked a whole month at a ski lodge. Friends used to joke that I was always in a different place whenever they called. My passion for travel was clear. The fateful encounter that happened when I was 25. I was working part-time at an old inn in the northern region. There, I met Brian, who was training to be a chef. He took a liking to me, noting my hearty appetite and cheerful demeanor. After my part-time stint ended, we kept in touch even after I returned home.
When I become a full-fledged chef, my dream is to take over the restaurant attached to the inn. Will you support me?
His proposal was direct, and I responded immediately. Training must be tough. I want to come as soon as possible to support you. We quickly decided to get married, and I quit my job to join him. Brian's parents and the seasoned staff at the restaurant welcomed me warmly. They treated me like family, and I felt at home right away. Brian was focused on becoming the head chef at the attached restaurant, training tirelessly at the inn. Naturally, I started working at the inn too. The job came with challenges, but after my somewhat monotonous job in the interior design company, this was refreshing. Everything at the inn felt novel and fulfilling. The beauty of the hospitality industry is that everything is connected to real life. I learned a lot, from plating dishes to serving guests, and even dressing in traditional kimonos. It was rewarding when guests would say, "I'll be back," with satisfied smiles. People travel for different reasons, to relax, escape, stress, or find themselves. But most guests come expecting warm hospitality, good food, and meaningful interactions. Knowing that I could contribute to these moments was incredibly fulfilling. It was especially touching when guests remembered me and returned years later. These connections made me appreciate the unique charm of running an inn. Over the years, I had 2 children. Our first child, a daughter, now works at an international company. She has no interest in the inn or the family business and aims for a transfer abroad. Our second child, a son, works in Tokyo. Although he never said it, I knew my husband felt a tinge of sadness. Deep down, he probably wished our son would become a chef and continue the legacy. But my husband respected his decision and didn't object. He truly is a kind and understanding man. Our employees and even guests supported us so much that I rarely found child-rearing difficult. My mother-in-law, Nicole, was particularly skilled at managing my father-in-law, Kyle, who was often strict and demanding. She ensured everyone worked comfortably and efficiently. I admired her work ethic. She never spared any effort. When I became the young staff of the inn, she brought a cake and celebrated with all the staff. Over time, I felt more like a member of the inn's extended family than just an employee. It felt like I had lived there forever. Looking back, I realized that my in-laws, my husband, and the staff's generosity allowed me to thrive. Surprisingly, life in the countryside suited me perfectly. Our village had many self-sustaining farms, supported by the area's rich natural resources. The clean water made the food and vegetables especially delicious. Even without electricity, we could cook and heat bath over a fire. We couldn't even panic if the tap water stopped. The nearby river provided us with clean water. On quiet nights, we fell asleep to the sound of the river and chirping insects. In the morning, we woke up to birds singing. It was a stark contrast to my city life, where I was glued to my phone amid the noise of traffic. Thanks to meeting Brian, I've lived a truly fulfilled life. I started as a helper, became the staff, and then transitioned from working in the inn to managing the restaurant. I am grateful to everyone I met along the way, but above all, I was thrilled that my husband's dream of being the head chef was coming true. The inn, which Kyle managed, was rich in history. While this heritage added value, the building's age and lack of modern aesthetics were hard to ignore. I personally loved the character of the place, but not everyone felt the same. Kyle, being a hospitality professional, never showed dissatisfaction in front of guests. However, he was set in his ways and fiercely protective of the inn's traditions. This loyalty especially applied to our longtime customers. No matter how Nicole tried to convince him, he was adamantly opposed to renovating the building. But the aging structure was a genuine problem. If we wanted the inn to continue operating, renovations were unavoidable. Everyone except Kyle agreed on this, and it caused a lot of tension. The attached restaurant, equally historic, was under my husband's care for repairs. I assumed we'd update it to be magazine-worthy, but my husband, just like his father, furrowed his brow and said no. The two of them were stubbornly traditional, identical in both expression and demeanor. Nicole kept trying to find a way to at least fix the dangerous, deteriorating parts. I'm not talking about unnecessary changes, just basic safety repairs for our guests.
If this inn reaches the end of its life, so will I. This place is my very soul.
At 80, Kyle was ready to retire, planning to pass the reins to my husband. But my husband was determined to remain the head chef, so we had to hire an external manager. Nicole sighed heavily while Kyle flared his nostrils, ready for battle. Their loyalty to regular customers was admirable, but we worried more about the potential collapse of the building.
What should we do with these two stubborn men?
She confided, half-jokingly. They even make the same expressions while saying the same things, I replied. While it was endearing, it also made me realize how resistance to change could be problematic. Renovating such an old wooden structure was costly, and there was a risk that new guests might not come if we changed too much. Still, it was only natural to think of attracting new customers and thriving. Since Brian and Kyle disliked discussing finances, Nicole and I often handled it.
We don't need a complete overhaul, but we should at least fix the places that are leaning dangerously.
She was right. A few restaurant owners from Tokyo have visited and suggested converting the place into a cafe-style eatery using its historic charm, but they were put off by the age of the building and by my husband's intimidating presence. One guest who muttered about eating in a dirty, outdated place nearly had hot tea spilled on him by my husband. While the building was old, it was never dirty. I kept it meticulously clean thanks to my years of training in the hospitality industry. However, the perception that old equals dirty was persistent. When I voiced this, my husband stayed silent and walked into the garden. I wanted to help him see that without changes, the building would eventually succumb to time. I hoped to renovate with a focus on safety and preserving the traditional feel. I wanted visitors from afar to experience the cultural charm of Japan, harmonized with the countryside landscape. This vision applied to both the inn and the restaurant. Despite the excellent service and food, we risked losing guests due to the building's reputation. Continuing to operate with safety concerns would be a bigger loss. The staff started to feel uneasy about the future. Around that time, we received a call from our son, Ryan, who worked in Tokyo. It was rare for him to call, so I wondered if something was wrong.
No, nothing's wrong,
he assured me.
I have someone I'd like you to meet. I know the inn and restaurant keep you busy, but could you make some time?
Ryan wanted to bring his girlfriend, whom he intended to marry. The whole family was overjoyed, even Kyle and husband. who had been grumpy during renovation talks. But I felt a little anxious. Would a city girl think poorly of our old buildings? Although it was unlikely she'd move here, I wanted the place to leave a positive impression as Ryan's family home. I wondered if it would be better to meet at a restaurant near the train station, but that felt like denying our pride in the inn and restaurant. 2 weeks later, Ryan called again.
Mom, about our visit to the house, we need to postpone.
What happened? Did the engagement fall through? I had a bad habit of jumping to worst-case scenarios.
No, it's nothing like that. Actually, Lily, that's her name, just found out she's expecting. The doctor says she's 3 months along.
What? Really? Ryan, you're going to be a dad?
Yeah, looks like it.
Oh my! Hold on a second. I forgot to end the call as I ran to my husband, breathlessly sharing the news. Then I rushed over to the neighboring inn to tell my in-laws. Kyle, being old school, looked stunned.
Isn't that out of order? Oh, times have changed, dear. It's not like when we were young.
Even though he was bewildered, joy crept into his expression, and I couldn't stop smiling either. My husband, on the other hand,
Ryan becoming a dad before even getting married? They call that a shotgun wedding, don't they? But it's still wonderful news. A baby's a blessing.
Exactly. Some couples wish for children but can't have them. We're truly lucky. My husband's eyes crinkled with emotion, and he already looked like a doting grandfather. The news of the upcoming baby brought immense happiness to our household and everyone around us. The joy that a newborn can bring is immeasurable. We agreed that Ryan and Lily could visit after the birth, as her health was the priority. I wouldn't be able to help with her care due to my responsibilities, but Lily, determined, planned to work until just before her due date. The two had a simple civil ceremony before the baby arrived, with plans for a wedding after the birth. A wedding would be nice for Lily's parents, and she probably wanted to wear a wedding dress too. Ryan shared the same thoughts, and we waited for the baby's arrival with excitement.
How soon can a baby go outside after being born?
When I raised our kids, I kept them in for about a month. Babies have weak immune systems, so you have to be careful.
A whole month? That feels so far away.
He was already lost in thoughts of his grandchild. At one point, he even joked about closing the restaurant for a day to visit the hospital, which made me laugh. And this was the same man who once said, "When this restaurant closes, so does my life." Now I wondered if it was the perfect time to bring up renovations. Since Lily and our grandchild will be visiting, wouldn't it be nice to make the restaurant and inn safer and sturdier for them? I braced for anger, but my husband just furrowed his brow and crossed his arms. His expression was different this time.
You're right. I cherish this place as it is, but with a grandchild coming...
The power of a grandchild is indeed remarkable. Wouldn't it be great if they could come here often, even as they grow? Yes, and you'll need to stay healthy for that too.
All right, let's find a skilled craftsman and a good design firm.
Well, that was quick. Just like that, the renovation for the restaurant was approved. Kyle was still hesitant about the inn.
The inn won't hold up much longer. Besides, grandkids are a rare blessing, aren't they?
With this motivation, it seemed the inn would soon follow suit. Finding a craftsman with the right skills and a reasonable budget would be the next challenge. While initial meetings for the restaurant and renovation went well, the actual construction would start after the baby was due. A few months later, Lily gave birth to a healthy baby. My husband, tears welling up, stared at the photos Ryan sent on his phone. I couldn't resist capturing his reaction on video and sending it back to Ryan. The renovation plans for the restaurant were progressing smoothly. The place would still be in its original state when they visited, but by the following year, it would be transformed. Lily's recovery was going well, and they planned to visit us after the baby turned 1 month old. For Lily, this would be her first visit to our home. My husband and I were so eager, we couldn't hide our excitement. Even the in-laws teased us about it. The new manager had started training at the inn, and Kyle was busy with the transition. He looked forward to a peaceful retirement filled with leisurely strolls. I read somewhere that after a birth, it's important to prioritize the mother who endured such an intense event. I remembered feeling overlooked after my own deliveries. I wanted Lily to feel cherished. Since she'd be breastfeeding, we'd have to be mindful of her diet. I wished she could enjoy and relax in a nearby spa, but she might hesitate to leave the baby with us. My mind was filled with ideas and worries, but I loved every minute of it. I hadn't felt this excited since I first joined the inn as a young bride. My husband and I talked more than ever as we prepared for Ryan and Lily's visit. My husband, in particular, was determined to serve a special meal he had been planning meticulously for months. When I suggested booking a reservation at another restaurant, he firmly declined.
If I'm not cooking, it won't be the same,
he insisted. Though this meant he'd be busy in the kitchen and not able to chat much, I knew it was important for him to show his craft. It was his way of creating a special memory for his son and grandchild. When the day finally came, Ryan, Lily, and their baby arrived as planned. Lily was stunning, dressed in what looked like her best outfit, perhaps overdressed for our rustic restaurant. She wore a navy dress and jacket reminiscent of parents dropping off their children at prestigious city schools. I wished I'd told her more about our place to manage expectations, but Ryan had wanted the setting to be a surprise. "Welcome, Lily. We're so glad to have you here," I said warmly. I set aside my usual kimono for a more comfortable outfit. My husband wore a casual shirt, though he would soon change into his chef's attire. He planned to introduce himself as the chef when serving the main course. Seeing my husband so excited to orchestrate this moment was surprising but endearing. His eyes, which had been misty with pride and love as he glanced at the baby, confirmed just how much this day meant to him.
"Is this the place Ryan reserved?"
she asked as she settled into her seat.
Yup, it's got character, doesn't it? The food is great, trust me. The chef's a pro.
Ryan's voice carried a note of pride, and I noticed my husband's ears turning red as he took a sip of tea to hide his embarrassment. I stifled a giggle as I watched this moment of fatherly pride unfold. It was a tender, heartwarming scene, with 3 generations gathered around the table. Just as I felt a rush of gratitude, Lily said something that shattered the moment.
This place is filthy. Is this what you'd expect from a poor countryside family?
Perhaps she didn't mean for us to hear it, but my husband Ryan and I all caught her words clearly. Did she think our home was part of the nearby farmland? I realized Ryan hadn't mentioned our family business. Even if she thought that, I never expected such an unkind comment.
Hey, Lily, what did you just say?
Oh, sorry, Ryan. I know you're from here, but I've never been to a place that markets itself as rustic like this. I was shocked.
I felt something snap inside me, and I turned to my husband. His expression, which moments before had been soft with happiness, turned stone cold. This was the look he had when he was truly deeply angry. I wanted to step in, but I was too stunned by Lily's harsh words. Ryan, sensing the tension, tried to smooth things over and understand what Lily meant, but it was useless. She had already made her views clear. Lily had implied that our humble roots were synonymous with poverty, dismissing everything we stood for. She had no hesitation, no filter, even though she was speaking about her husband's family.
Lily, do you really think of my hometown like that?
Well, we're not planning to move back here, right? We're staying in Tokyo, so it shouldn't matter what I say.
What if someone criticized your hometown? I interjected, my voice low.
Oh, they wouldn't. It's the city, there's nothing to criticize.
The narrow-mindedness of her response left me speechless, but the worst part was that she had voiced these thoughts openly.
Visiting is one thing, but I could never live in a place like this. And what about our kids' education? How many schools are even around here?
My husband's expression darkened further. His voice was cold and sharp.
Then, go home.
Ryan, realizing how serious this was, quickly tried to get Lily to apologize, but it was too late.
Wait, I didn't mean...
My husband stood up abruptly, his face stern as he headed toward the kitchen.
And where did he go? Isn't the bathroom in the other direction?
He's not going to the bathroom, Lily. Just watch, I said. A few minutes later, my husband emerged in his chef's attire, carrying a quiet but imposing presence.
Wait, this is your restaurant?
Ryan finally spoke up, explaining,
Yes, my grandfather manages the inn next door and my dad is the head chef here. I wanted it to be a surprise.
The weight of her remarks settled heavily on the room.
I may have moved to Tokyo, but I respect my father and grandfather's work. They've been planning this meal for you, Lily.
My husband's voice, steady but resolute, cut through the silence.
We were ready to welcome you, but if you think so little of us, then finish your meal and don't come back.
He continued preparing the dishes, each motion precise and intense, as Lily's discomfort became palpable. This was not just about a bad first impression. It was clear her view of the countryside and our home wasn't going to change. Lily ate in awkward silence, surrounded by disapproval, while Ryan tried to process what had just unfolded. Meanwhile, I took a bite of my husband's food, finding it delicious as ever. Despite the tension, I felt proud of him and knew his talent needed to be preserved. When I married into this family, I was welcomed and supported. I had assumed Lily would receive the same embrace, but now it was clear that we couldn't accept her so easily. It was better that she stayed in Tokyo, far removed from us.
I'm sorry for what I said. This food is incredible.
Good. Now leave, and don't come back. Take care of your husband and child. That's all I ask. Ryan, you're always welcome to call.
Ryan looked pained, but understood.
What time is it?
Surprised, I checked the clock. It's just past 2 p.m.
Good. Still time to finish today's prep. Let's invite the neighbors for a gathering.
Ryan and Lily left, and though I felt for my son, I knew he sensed the divide between them. I hoped they could find happiness in Tokyo far from us. A month later, Ryan called, telling us he wanted a divorce. I understand, but raising a baby alone isn't easy, Ryan, and Lily's probably still adjusting.
She's been going out, Mom, leaving the baby behind. I can't do this anymore.
Take notes, Ryan. Record when she leaves and comes back. If you're caring for the baby alone, document that too.
I have been, but she's been drinking. She can't breastfeed after that.
I realized her obsession with city life had blinded her to motherhood's realities. You have to be clear with her, Ryan. Either work things out or move forward with a divorce. Ryan sounded heartbroken, but I knew he needed to face this head on. The lawyer Ryan had been consulting told him that if Lily willingly relinquished custody, things would be easier. Ryan had evidence of her nights out and even the times she didn't come home until morning. If Lily's behavior continued, it was likely that Ryan could gain full custody. However, he needed to be prepared to become a single father.
Why doesn't he just come here? He could work and raise the child in a supported place,
my husband said one night. I was surprised, considering he had said we were no longer connected to them. With the lawyer's help, Lily's infidelity came to light, making the custody battle easier. It turned out Lily didn't want custody. She had been overwhelmed by parenthood from the start. Whether she was simply unprepared or swept up in the fantasy of city life, it was clear she wasn't interested in raising a child. Ryan won full custody, and Lily's mother even sent a heartfelt apology letter offering financial support and childcare help. Despite everything, I wanted my grandson to meet Lily's family. I doubted Lily would come to visit, even if we arranged it. According to Lily's mother, Lily's life unraveled after their separation. Her latest escapade ended with her stumbling drunk into someone on the street, both of them intoxicated. Lily caused such a scene that she was taken to the police station. Ryan refused to bail her out, leaving her mother to fly in from her hometown to handle it. After learning that Lily had abandoned her baby and was partying, the officers sternly reprimanded her. Lily's father had left their family when she was young due to infidelity, creating a cycle that Lily couldn't break. I could never understand why people repeated the same harmful patterns they knew to be wrong, like a curse passed down generations. When I shared my husband's idea of having Ryan and the baby move here, Ryan sounded hopeful.
I can't quit my job just yet, but life here seems better for raising a child.
Take your time to decide, Ryan. It's your future and his. Our restaurant renovation continued with the vision of making it a welcoming place for our grandson. We kept the charm intact, and our longtime guests loved it. So, Brian, even you softened up for your grandson, a customer joked, and my husband blushed, nodding in agreement. Even Kyle had agreed to renovate the inn, influenced by the thought of his great-grandchild visiting. Watching these two stubborn men change for the sake of their grandson proved how special he was. The village was aging, and local politicians often stressed the need for child-friendly support. My husband and I agreed wholeheartedly. We didn't want to make this place a city, but a welcoming home for future generations. Not every young person in the city was like Lily. Many sought the peace and rejuvenation that the countryside offered. We wanted those young visitors to experience our inn and restaurant to see the beauty of the village.
Wouldn't it be great if our grandson wanted to visit every summer?
Yes, it would, I said, smiling as my husband nodded with a contented grin. Summer came, and the village thrived with the warmth and light that seemed to touch everything. We completed the renovations in time, transforming the restaurant into a place that combined the charm of the old with subtle, modern comforts. It wasn't long before Ryan called to say he and my grandson would visit for a short stay. My husband's eyes lit up at the news, and I could see how much it meant to him to have them here. The day they arrived, the village felt even more alive. Ryan had a calm determination about him, holding his son securely as he walked toward us. My grandson's curious eyes widened as he took in the sights and sounds of our home.
Welcome back, Ryan. And you. Look how big you've grown,
he said, reaching out to take the baby into his arms. Watching my husband hold our grandson was like seeing a part of our past come full circle. The restaurant bustled with familiar guests who knew our story and were excited to meet the next generation. One evening, as the sun set and cast golden light over the village, Ryan sat down with us.
I've been thinking. Maybe moving back here isn't such a far-off idea. Life's simpler, more grounded. It feels right.
My heart swelled with hope, though I knew it wasn't an easy choice for him.
Whatever you decide, know that we're here. This will always be home.
The baby gurgled and reached out toward the evening sky as if to grasp the last rays of sunlight. It was then I realized that no matter where life took us or how many challenges we faced, this place, with all its history and love, was ready for the future. And as long as it stood, so would we. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and my grandson settled comfortably into the rhythm of village life. The simplicity seemed to suit them both, and Ryan looked more relaxed than I had seen in years. My husband spent countless hours showing Ryan the ins and outs of the kitchen, teaching him family recipes that had been passed down for generations.
One day, you'll teach these to him,
my husband said, glancing at our grandson, who was babbling in his high chair.
I like that, Dad.
The new restaurant, now bustling with new and old customers, became the backdrop for these moments of connection. People would come in to enjoy a meal and leave with stories of the little boy who laughed at everything. One evening, after the guests had left and the kitchen was quiet, Ryan spoke up.
Mom, Dad, I've made my decision. I want to move back here permanently. I think it's the best place for him and for me.
Tears pricked my eyes, and my husband put a hand on Ryan's shoulder, his face a mix of pride and gratitude.
Welcome home, son.
The following months were filled with preparations. Ryan transitioned to working remotely, taking on freelance projects that allowed him to stay close to family. The village, with its familiar faces and traditions, welcomed them with open arms. Our grandson grew up surrounded by people who adored him, from the elderly farmers who waved as he passed to the restaurant guests who watched him toddle around. He brought new life to the community, and even Kyle, who was now retired, found joy in showing him old family photos and telling stories.
You're the future, little one,
he'd say, his voice tender with age and affection. The renovations proved to be a turning point not just for our business but for our family as well. The restaurant thrived, and the inn, with its renewed safety and charm, attracted more visitors seeking an authentic experience. And in the heart of it all was our grandson, growing up with the warmth of tradition and the promise of the future. On summer evenings, as the village glowed under the setting sun, I would stand by the restaurant's door watching Ryan cook while my husband played with our grandson outside. The sounds of laughter, clinking dishes, and the chatter of happy guests filled the air. In those moments, I felt complete. Life had come full circle, and the village, with all its simple beauty, had found new roots.
On our 10th anniversary, my husband chose his mistress. He never expected what happened next.
Get out of this house. I'm marrying my lover. My husband and I had been in a Cold War, with only $600 a month he could freely spend. Most of the household expenses had been paid by me. One day, I noticed my husband smirking at his phone, wearing an inappropriate grin. It turned out to be a picture of a young woman who looked like a model. Naturally, I confronted him, asking who she was, but he brushed me off and walked away. Frustrated, but maintaining my composure, I continued with my daily routine until he shouted at me to leave. His past behavior had already chipped away at any love I had for him, so the shock didn't hit me as hard as it should have. But I couldn't let things end like that. The idea of not seeing some sort of payback against a man who had taken advantage of me was inconceivable. I decided to hire an investigator to dig up his secrets, and planned my revenge for a moment when everyone important to him would be present. My name is Julia Andrews, 29 years old, at an age where marriage is constantly on my mind. I work in the sales department of a top firm and dedicate myself to expanding the company's influence. Reflecting on my life, I realized I'd had terrible luck with men. Starting in high school, every time an attractive guy confessed his interest, we'd date, but it would soon end with him losing interest. The pattern was predictable. I'd give too much and things would end just as quickly. By the time I turned 30, I thought I might never get married. I assumed I'd live my life as a lonely office worker. But then I met someone in my company's sales department who, though not classically handsome, had a kind face. He wasn't the type to usually catch my attention, but as we talked more, I felt drawn to his gentle demeanor. He was different from the guys I'd dated before. For the first time, I felt like I discovered what genuine sincerity was. Apparently, he was interested in me too. One day, we ran into each other outside the office, and he shyly asked me out. Even though he was 3 years older than me, his awkwardness was endearing, and I said yes immediately. Unlike the handsome men I used to date, this felt new and refreshing. I was surprised by how much happiness a sincere man could bring. On our first anniversary, he spoke up. "I may not earn much, but my love for you is unmatched." His heartfelt declaration floored me, making me fall even deeper in love. However, there was one concern. He would frequently ask me for money. Other than that, everything seemed perfect, but his financial dependence worried me. "I'm sorry, I promised to pay you back." But he never did. After several instances, I finally had to ask, "Can I ask you something difficult? Are you having financial problems?" He fell silent, his expression serious. "Actually, my parents failed in their business, and I'm burdened with their debt." His parents had even disappeared, leaving him to deal with everything alone. Feeling deep sympathy, I continued to support him, buying things for him and covering our meals. On our second anniversary, he surprised me with a modest ring and proposed. "It's not an expensive ring, but I saved up bit by bit. Will you marry me?" I was overjoyed and agreed with tears streaming down my face. I thought life with him would be perfect, and we bought a small house and started our married life. But soon, cracks began to appear. While I continued to pay for most expenses before marriage, it became even more pronounced afterward. The financial burden fell almost entirely on me, and he continued to ask for money more frequently. "The TV's outdated, and I need new clothes. Can you help?" He took the money as if it were nothing, claiming it was necessary for work. Despite having a separate account for the mortgage, he never deposited a penny. "What's going on with the mortgage payments? I'm covering everything. This can't go on." For the first time, I confronted him, realizing I had never truly known how much he earned. Reluctantly, he admitted, "I'd barely have $600 a month after paying off my debt." I was stunned. His income was no better than a college student's part-time earnings. When I showed my disbelief, he retorted angrily, "Don't look at me like that. My parents' bankruptcy cost me my future." For the first time, I saw him angry, his face twisted in rage. "I'm not looking down on you," I tried to say, but he interrupted. "Yes, you are. You went to a top university, got a great job, and everything's been easy for you." He stormed out, leaving me to process our crumbling relationship. But I wasn't ready to end things without trying to fix them. "If you study for qualifications, your income can improve. I'll help, but only if you're serious," I said tearfully. He paused, turned back, and responded, "I'll try. I've been spoiled, but I do want to earn more." Despite our argument, I hoped we could turn things around. But I was wrong. His behavior didn't change. He claimed to be studying for qualifications, but never even bought the textbooks. He spent his days lazily and frequently changed jobs, never staying long enough to build a career. His income remained stagnant. I started losing hope, thinking about ending our marriage more than once. But each time I brought it up, he softened, speaking in the gentlest voice possible. "I know you're right, Julia. You have every reason to be upset, but I am trying, even if it doesn't seem like it. Just give me a bit more time." His voice would always reach that vulnerable part of my heart, shaking my resolve. The cycle repeated itself, keeping me tethered to him for nearly 10 years. Aside from money and work issues, he was my comfort. His kind aura made even the simplest conversations a balm for my stress. But as our 10th wedding anniversary approached, his behavior changed drastically. He started coming home later and later, sometimes after midnight. "You're home late again. What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Is work really taking this long? His face lit up as if he was proud of something. I found my path. I'm taking programming classes. Tech is booming, and once I master this, I'll be in high demand. I'll make it up to you, Julia. I felt a glimmer of hope. If he truly committed to programming, our financial future could improve. But things soon took a suspicious turn. Midnight arrivals became routine, and sometimes he didn't come home until the morning. Isn't it odd that you're out so late for classes? I asked one night. Programming schools don't usually have such late hours. His mood darkened immediately. Why don't you support me? I'm finally motivated, and all you do is criticize. Late nights means I'm working hard. He muttered complaints, blaming me for doubting him. The instructor is passionate, and I learn best in long, focused sessions. Why can't you be happy for me? I bit back my retort, wanting to keep the peace, but his story didn't make sense. Despite claiming he was devoted to learning, he never touched his laptop at home. He spent all his time on his phone, smirking at something that clearly amused him. What's so funny? I finally asked, unable to hide my irritation. I'm just reading programming books. It's good mental exercise. His eyes never left the screen, and that unsettling grin never left his face. My curiosity piqued, and I found ways to move closer without alerting him. When I finally saw his screen, anger surged through me. He was swiping through pictures of a young woman who looked like a model. What are you looking at? This isn't programming, I shouted, my voice cutting through the room. He jumped, nearly falling off the sofa. Don't snoop on my phone. Even spouses have boundaries. Are you seriously blaming me? You're the one acting shady. So what if I was looking at pictures? Jealous much? He smirked. His eyes darted around nervously, giving away his guilt. I'm just blowing off steam. You're overreacting. He stormed out, leaving me standing there, shaking with anger. That night marked the start of a silent war. Our home turned cold, filled with a silence that stung my ears. This went on for 2 weeks until I couldn't take it anymore. One day after work, I came home to find him waiting, a smug expression on his face. I'm done living with you. You're suffocating, a burden. I'm marrying my lover, so get out. His words should have shocked me, but they didn't. The realization of just how low he could stoop was finally clear. Is it that model you were ogling? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, and she's better than you in every way. She's my programming instructor, kind, smart, and beautiful, unlike you. He spoke, listing her merits, trying to crush me with each word. I'm serious, Julia. Just leave. You're old news. If you want me gone, fine, I said, surprisingly calm. Any love I had left had already vanished when I saw him laughing at that woman's pictures. I packed my essentials and headed out. Finally, you're being reasonable. Maybe if you'd acted this way before, things wouldn't have gotten so bad. His words meant nothing to me. I wondered only one thing. How does he think he'll survive without me? He only had $600 a month to spend freely. I paid for everything. Mortgage, bills, groceries. How did he think he would manage? But that wasn't my problem anymore. I moved into a monthly rental apartment and started my life anew. I assumed things were over between us, but as expected, the calls began. Are you kidding me? Why isn't there money in the mortgage account? The bills aren't getting paid, and the electricity's about to be cut off. His voice was frantic, tinged with panic. It was absurd, considering he had never once contributed to the mortgage. Why would I pay for a house I'm not living in? Even a child could understand that. You've become heartless, Julia. You know I can't afford it on my income. The audacity was staggering. That's your problem now. I'm not paying another cent. Just send me the divorce papers, I said, ready to hang up. His tone changed immediately, desperate and pleading. Wait. I went too far. I'm sorry, okay? I might have a new job lined up soon. Just help me out until then, please. The nerve of him to even ask. But I was ready. Fine, let's talk, but only if your lover joins us. I want to see who you're leaving me for. Of course, she'll be there, he said quickly, like a dog responding to a bell. A week later, I returned to our old house. On the couch sat the young woman from his phone, lazily playing with her hair. She barely acknowledged me when I walked in. Thanks for coming. I thought you might bail. my husband said with an arrogant grin. He had no idea what was coming. Actually, I brought someone who'd like to say a few words, I said, picking up my phone. His smile faltered as my guests walked in. His parents.
Never thought I'd see you again, son, but Julia told us everything. You've been lying to this woman for a decade. Where did we go wrong?
I had hired an investigator who uncovered the truth. His parents weren't dead, nor had they ever failed at any business. His father worked a regular job. His mother was a homemaker. The tale of debt and lost parents was a complete fabrication.
Why are you here?
He stammered, face pale.
Why? Because you told Julia a sob story to cover your own failures. That's why. You always were good at spinning lies, but this, it's too much.
The young woman on the couch seemed bored, twirling her hair.
What's going on? This is ridiculous.
I explained it all. Your successful fiancé is broke. He made up a story about debt to make me fund his lifestyle. He has nothing but $600 a month to spend. Her eyes widened as she turned to him.
Wait, you're broke? You said you were an executive taking classes for career growth.
Nope, just lies. And there's still a mortgage on this house, I added. Her expression turned icy.
This is a joke, right? I'm not staying with a man who can't even pay his bills. No, let me explain.
He started, voice shaking.
Save it. I'm out.
She stormed out, ignoring his desperate pleas.
Well, that's our cue, Julia. Hope this helps with your closure. And you, son, don't come to us for help.
You've hurt too many people. Good luck, though I doubt it'll help. They left without another glance at him.
Julia, please. You're all I have left.
He fell to his knees, tears streaming. His pitiful cries meant nothing now. I walked out, leaving his sobs behind. Divorce followed swiftly, and with that came his descent. Unable to pay the mortgage, the house was sold at a loss, leaving him with significant debt. He turned to loan sharks, digging himself into deeper trouble. He evaded them for a while, but his luck ran thin. Rumor had it he was still running, but with every escape, the stakes grew higher. I, on the other hand, used my share of assets to buy a new place. Life felt lighter, freer. I realized just how suffocating those years had been. Perhaps one day I'd find someone truly worth sharing my life with. I felt liberated in my new space, like a weight had finally been lifted off my shoulders. The years I spent supporting someone who only drained me were behind me. Now, every day was mine to enjoy, free from the chaos that had defined my marriage. I picked up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and even took the occasional solo trip. The silence in my house was no longer oppressive, it was peaceful. I wasn't sure if I would ever trust someone enough to marry again. But if that day came, I knew I'd be smarter, stronger, and ready. For now, I was content rebuilding my life one step at a time. As for my ex-husband, I occasionally heard updates from mutual acquaintances. His spiral into debt and desperation continued, with each story sounding worse than the last. I learned he tried to secure odd jobs, but never stuck with them long enough to make a difference. Some said he was still running from his debts, constantly looking over his shoulder. But I stopped letting those updates bother me. It wasn't my burden to bear anymore. The life I was rebuilding was no longer haunted by his shadow. Each day was a testament to the strength I found within myself, despite everything. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And for the first time in years, I felt genuinely hopeful about the future.